What is up, everybody, and welcome to Studio de Hifrid de Quarantine. Long hair, don't care. Damontae Kazee has been signed by the Cowboys. That is your news of the day. You got it? You got it. So Damontae Kazee and Malik Hooker were visits to the Cowboys. J-Ron Kearse as well, obviously. So they've signed J-Ron Kearse. They've signed Damontae Kazee. And the question becomes, all right, now what? Right? So at safety, you now have Donovan Wilson. You now have Damontae Kazee, who is a starting free safety. You now have J-Ron Kearse, Keanu Neal, who are more hybrid. Keanu Neal, we learned yesterday, of course, is going to be working with the linebackers. So we'll see how this plays out. We'll see how they end up lining up. I think the beauty of it is, unless we have a bad defensive coordinator again, I think you have a smart dude who just knows how to put guys in a position to succeed and let your defense do different things. So you can call Keanu Neal a linebacker, and maybe sometimes he's actually playing a safety role, and maybe sometimes you have three safeties on the field. Keanu Neal and Damontae Kazee, I think, are basically starters. Kazee is going to be your free safety. But I will say this as well. They can't be done. Because here is my worry. My worry is, and I told you yesterday which guy they were going to sign out of Hooker and Kazee, because I knew which guy was further along and having a better chance to be ready to go when the season starts. But you are still talking about a dude who tore an Achilles during last season. So you're talking about less than a calendar year to come back from a torn Achilles, and that's not the most fun thing to bank on if you're a Cowboy fan. So I think what you do is you say, okay, we're almost ready to draft, because if you had to go line up on a Sunday, could you play football now? You could, because you could run out Trayvon Diggs, Anthony Brown, Jordan Lewis, and you could run out Antoine Woods and Brent Urban at nose tackle. You have Carlos Watkins to compete with Tristan Hill and Neville Gallimore. You have Terrell Basham, Dorrance Armstrong, Bradley Anai to go with Tank Lawrence and Randy Gregory. You have, obviously, Jalen, Leighton, Neal, Francis Bernard, Luke Gifford. So you could go play. You can go play. And so now you can avoid the being absolutely forced to do something. I do think they're still going to add a corner with a high pick, whether it's at 10 or whether it's at 44. I think they're going to add a corner. I still think they got to add a safety. If you have a chance, Richie Grant at 44, if you get a chance to do that, would be fine. You guys know I would take Ardarius Washington at 44, but the NFL is going to hate him because he ran a 4.6 and he's small. So maybe you could take him in the third or the fourth, and that would be wonderful. But I do think they need to add another guy at free safety as a just in case, because, hey, my guy is coming off a torn Achilles. That's going to be penciled in as my starter. But they're getting there. They're getting there. You know, what's left to do in free agency? I wouldn't mind if they signed another corner. I don't think they have to do anything at edge. I don't think they have to do anything at defensive tackle. If you wanted to sign a linebacker, that's fine. But if you're calling Keanu Neal that, then I don't think you need to sign a linebacker. Let's see what Bernard's got. See what Gifford's got. So what I would like to see is sign one more corner, and you're kind of ready to draft on defense. And the wild card, even with that, is you look at the Cowboys roster, and even this kind of depends, because they are going to pick a corner with whether it's 10, 44, 75, whatever. They're going to pick a corner. And that's going to get added to this mix. Anthony Brown, Trayvon Diggs, Jordan Lewis, Reggie Robinson, last year's draft pick, who will be moving back to corner. So I would anticipate those guys are going to make the team. Then you've just got the other guys who did play last year, Rashard Robinson, Savion Smith, Chris Westry. Like, you have a bunch of dudes that are competing for a roster spot, potentially a fifth corner spot. So once you draft a guy, he probably pencils in ahead of all those guys. And maybe you already have 5. I'd like to have 6. So you could still sign another corner. But outside of that, you're sort of ready to draft. You're kind of ready to go. So welcome to Damontae Kazee. Welcome to Cowboys having a free safety. And you're ready to rock. Now, what else did I want to do today? A little mailbag action. Ken Art, tomorrow, talk about who your favorites are for safety if we draft a safety in the second or third round. Well, my second round safeties are Ardarius Washington, TCU. Richie Grant, Central Florida. Trevon Merrick, TCU. Divine Diablo, Virginia Tech. Hamza Nasirildeen at Florida State. And Tyree Gillespie at Missouri. Now, I'll throw in a couple of other names just because Andre Cisco is somebody that people are going to view as a free safety. I need to see his athletic testing. But I'm told he's a great athlete. He has tons of interceptions in college. I'm just terrified of him because he gives up more big plays than anyone in the country. It's insane how many big plays he gives up. So that's not for me. And maybe throw in the name Javon Holland at Oregon. He had good ball production. I just don't know if he is physical enough to be a safety or athletic enough to be a corner. So I'd like to see his pro day too. But those are safety names to know for the draft. Troy said, if the market completely dries up for Xavier Woods, would you bring him back for dirt cheap as a depth guy? Yes, I sure would. That was probably asked before the KZ signing, though. Conrad Butler, hey, Jeff, one of my favorite D-tackle prospects in the last few years was Vita Vea. Is there a similar prospect like him in this year's draft, and who's your favorite DT in the draft? No, there is not a Vita Vea. For me, the top defensive tackle prospect is Christian Barmore at Alabama, just because he has all the tools you want in a defensive tackle. He has ability as a pass rusher. He has power. He has athleticism. He has everything you want plus production. But at Alabama, he wasn't really a starter on rundowns. They would play other guys. So he has development to go through, but I like him. My second-round D tackles are Christian Barmore, Marvin Wilson at Florida State, Alim McNeil at NC State. So those are my three favorite defensive tackles. Chance, Jeff, what are your thoughts on drafting one of the top wide receivers and keeping Gallup so we just run 4-wide shotgun? You guys know I love receivers. No, I would not do that. If you drafted a receiver with the 10th overall pick, you're trading somebody. You have to. I mean, unless you feel like your defense is going to improve just based on coaching and natural NFL regression, even I probably wouldn't go receiver and then not trade a guy for a guy. In that scenario, you'd have to trade Michael Gallup for the Michael Gallup equivalent that plays D tackle or corner or safety. You need the Gallup equivalent. Somebody who's in the exact same spot you are, where they kind of got an extra guy and they're not going to pay him and his contract's winding down. Oh, Juan Thornhill, Kansas City safety. But does he beat out KZ? I would think so, but that's the sort of thinking that you would have to do. Dante, I'd love to hear your thoughts on targets in the draft we may need to trade up for. For instance, packaging second-rounder and third-round comp to move into the late first, or moving up in the third round. I want as many top 100 guys as possible. Can't use all 10 picks, right? You can't use all 10. Well, you can, but they won't. Trade-up candidates. Greg Newsome, Northwestern corner, or Kelvin Joseph, Kentucky corner. If, let's say, you went offensive tackle with your first pick, you could go get a corner if you get him to last that long. The Caleb Farley thing is going to throw this off because he's going to drop. You can't have two back vasectomies and not drop. So that pushes guys up. Surtan's going to go. And then I think it's between J.C. Horn and Greg Newsome. Kelvin Joseph is the wild card because of the attitude, character type questions. Maybe Asante Samuel Jr. Like, it's a good corner class, and you might Richie Grant. If you go corner at 10, you may not be able to wait it out for Richie Grant to get to 44, and you may want to go get him somewhere in the 20s or 30s. That's a trade-up candidate. Christian Barmore, that's a trade-up candidate, somewhere between 10 and 44. Jalen Phillips, Miami pass rusher. Offensive tackles, maybe Leatherwood, maybe Tevin Jenkins if he drops into the mid to late 20s. There's some names. Cole, love your stuff. Keep it up. That's my kind of comment. Just telling me that you love me. I appreciate that. All right, guys, make sure you're locked in 2 to 7 today. 105.3 The Fan, your home of the Cowboys. Myself, Gavin Dawson, Brian Broadus, Lucius Alexander. We're going to be partying. We're going to have a great time. What you thinking? What you drinking and what you thinking at 5:40? Tends to spill over to 6 o'clock. Radio.com app, if you're outside the DFW listening area, please swing through. I appreciate you guys checking this out. Appreciate you checking 105.3thefan.com. Really sorry about all this hair. Nothing I can do about it. leave a comment for the algorithm. Oh, and for what you want to hear about tomorrow. Remember, you have no idea what anybody's going through, so be cool to everybody. I love you. Bye.